A senior pastor's wife and a fellow pastor's husband have just been removed from leadership at an Assemblies of God church in Louisiana, after admitting to a nearly 2-year adulterous relationship that leadership only uncovered because someone outside the church blew the whistle. And this is not the first time one of them has been caught in a hidden relationship inside the walls of that same church. This is the story of Cultivation Church. Cultivation Church is an Assemblies of God congregation with locations in Covington and Mandeville, Louisiana, just north of New Orleans, across Lake Pontchartrain. Senior pastor Matt Dolney leads the church alongside his wife, Christina Dolney, who serves on staff. Also on staff, Chris Audibert, married to Pastor Mara Audibert. On July 19th, this statement was read aloud to the congregation during service, not live-streamed, not posted as video, just read from the pulpit. I want to read it to you now, in full, exactly as the church presented it to their own people. Listen closely, because what's said here, and what isn't, tells you a lot. Church family, today we need to address a serious and deeply painful situation that has affected our leadership, several families, and the body of believers who call Cultivation Church their home. We recognize the weight of what we are about to share. Our commitment is to communicate truthfully, responsibly, and compassionately, while avoiding unnecessary details that would cause further harm to those involved, especially the children and families who are walking through this painful season. Before addressing the most recent events, we believe it is necessary to provide information concerning a separate incident that occurred in late 2022. At the end of 2022, Christina Dolney was involved in an inappropriate intimate relationship with another adult female member of the church. Outside counsel at that time, along with certain members of the church staff, was informed of the incident. The outside counsel participated in addressing the matter. None of the current elders of Cultivation Church, Pastor Daniel Bankston, or the Assemblies of God leadership, had knowledge of this incident at the time it occurred. On April 22, 2026, 2 members of the church who were aware of the 2022 incident met with Pastor Matt Dolney. They requested clarification and understanding concerning what disciplinary, counseling, and restorative actions had been taken following that incident. Because the current elders and Pastor Daniel had no prior knowledge of the matter, they were notified and made aware of it on April 23, 2026. Assemblies of God leadership was not notified of the 2022 incident until after the current elders and Pastor Daniel were made aware of it. An elders meeting was then called for April 29, 2026, at 10 a.m. Those in attendance included elders John Ziegler, Howard Walden, Mark Nopower, and Bill Akers, pastors Matt Dolney, Christina Dolney, and Daniel Bankston, and the 2 members of the church who had brought the matter forward on April 22nd. During that meeting, Pastor Matt explained the actions that had been taken by outside counsel in 2022. He stated that the steps followed at that time had been based upon advice received from outside counsel and included Christina stepping away from ministry for a period of time, marital counseling, accountability, reconciliation, and a process intended to bring healing and restoration to their marriage. Pastor Matt stated that he had not avoided the need for accountability, counseling, reconciliation, or forgiveness. He represented to the elders that the matter had been addressed within their marriage, that the necessary restorative steps had been taken, and that the incident was behind them. Based upon the information presented during the April 29th meeting, the elders understood the 2022 incident to have been previously addressed and resolved. Matt and Christina were advised to seek the Lord for wisdom concerning how they might appropriately share a testimony of healing and restoration with the body of Cultivation Church. We now need to address the separate and more recent situation that has brought us together today. Approximately 2 weeks ago, information concerning an alleged inappropriate relationship between 2 members of our staff, Chris Audibert and Christina Dolney, was brought to Brian Bilak, the regional presbyter of the Assemblies of God. The original allegations were brought forward by an individual outside of the body of Cultivation Church who did not claim to have directly witnessed the relationship. Pastor Brian then presented the accusations to Pastor Matt Dolney and reported the allegations to the State Office of the Assemblies of God. Because the initial allegations came through a third party and were not accompanied by first-hand testimony or supporting evidence, leadership requested that anyone with direct knowledge of the relationship come forward or provide evidence that could substantiate the claims. During this period, Chris and Christina were each given the opportunity to acknowledge or deny the allegations. At that time, both denied that the inappropriate relationship had occurred. On Tuesday, July 14, 2026, at approximately 5 p.m., Christina admitted directly to her husband, Pastor Matt Dolney, that she and Chris had been involved in an intimate, adulterous relationship. Shortly afterward, Chris admitted the relationship to his wife, Pastor Mara Audibert. Based upon the admissions that have been made, we understand that this relationship began approximately 2 years ago. Once the admissions were made, an emergency meeting of the elders was immediately called and scheduled for Wednesday, July 15, 2026, at 3 p.m. Those in attendance included Elders Howard Walden, Bill Akers, Mark Newpower, John Ziegler, David Bankston, and Lloyd Bolds, Pastors Matt Dolney, Daniel Bankston, and Melissa Bankston, and Assemblies of God Regional Presbyter Brian Bilak. During that meeting, after prayer, discussion, and consultation with Regional Assemblies of God leadership, Chris Audibert and Christina Dolney were removed from their offices and from all positions of leadership within Cultivation Church, effective immediately. Pastor Matt Dolney and Pastor Mara Audibert have each been provided 3 months of paid leave. This leave is not disciplinary. It is intended to provide them with the necessary time and space to care for themselves, their children, and their families, and to prayerfully consider what their future will look like. Our sincere hope is for their complete healing, peace, and restoration. Our immediate concern is the well-being of Pastor Matt and his family, Pastor Mara and her family, and especially the children who have been affected by decisions they did not make. We ask everyone to honor their privacy. Please do not contact them seeking additional details, question their children, spread rumors, or participate in speculation concerning matters that have not been publicly confirmed. Our concern also extends to every believer who calls Cultivation Church home and to the individuals and families throughout our community who have been affected by these events. We understand that many of you may be experiencing grief, anger, disappointment, confusion, betrayal, and concern. Those emotions are understandable. Trust has been broken, and many questions remain unanswered. We will not minimize the seriousness of what has occurred. At the same time, we must remember that Cultivation Church does not belong to any one pastor, leader, family, or individual. This church belongs to Jesus Christ. Our mission to proclaim the gospel, make disciples, care for people, develop the gifts God has placed within His children, and serve our community has not changed. The elders will continue meeting in the coming days to determine the appropriate next steps concerning leadership, pastoral care, accountability, ministry stability, governance, and the future direction of Cultivation Church. Our efforts are focused on preserving the integrity and stability of this church, caring for those who have been wounded, and restoring confidence in the mission God has entrusted to this body of believers. As verified decisions are made and information becomes appropriate to share, we will communicate those matters with the church. At this time, however, there are no additional details that will be provided. We ask everyone to resist gossip, assumptions, social media speculation, and the desire to obtain information that does not contribute to accountability, healing, protection, or restoration. This is a time for truth and accountability, but it must also be a time for compassion, prayer, wisdom, and unity. Unity does not mean ignoring what has happened or refusing to ask necessary questions. Unity means choosing to respond in a way that honors Christ, protects the vulnerable, cares for those who have been wounded, and allows the elders and appropriate denominational leadership to complete the work now before them. Please pray for Pastor Matt, Pastor Mara, their children, and every family affected by this situation. Pray for the elders and leaders who must make difficult decisions in the days ahead. Pray for wisdom, humility, discernment, protection, healing, and peace. Most importantly, let us keep our eyes fixed upon Jesus. People may fail, but Jesus remains faithful. Leadership may change, but the gospel remains true. This moment is deeply painful, but it does not have the authority to cancel the calling, mission, or future that God has placed before the believers of Cultivation Church. We ask you to stand together in prayer, truth, compassion, accountability, and unity as we care for those who are hurting and continue furthering the gospel throughout our community. That's the statement, word for word, exactly as it was read to the congregation. Now let's talk about what's sitting underneath it. Notice the timeline. A relationship that began around 2022, handled quietly, through outside counsel, kept from the elders, from the denomination, from the congregation, for over 3 years. It only came to light in April 2026, because 2 church members went looking for answers themselves. And then, less than 3 months later, a second relationship, this time between Christina Dolney and Chris Audibert, surfaces the exact same way, not through confession, through an outside tip that leadership had to chase down for 2 weeks, against 2 direct denials, before the truth finally came out. The statement calls the 2022 matter addressed and resolved, but the congregation only just found out it happened at all, on the same day they learned about the 2026 affair. 2 questions worth sitting with here. First, how does a senior pastor's wife have a documented, inappropriate relationship with a church member in 2022, have it handled quietly through outside counsel, and have it never reach the elders or the denomination for over 3 years? Who made that call, and why? Second, Christina Dolney denied the 2026 relationship when first confronted. She only admitted it after weeks of pressure, and only to her husband directly, not to leadership. If a member from outside the congregation hadn't come forward with those original allegations, would this have ever surfaced at all? The church's own statement asks members to resist gossip, assumptions, social media speculation, but the questions being asked here aren't gossip. They're the same questions any accountability-minded believer should be asking when a pattern like this emerges twice, with the same person, years apart, and only comes to light because of outside intervention both times. Cultivation Church says its mission hasn't changed: to preach the gospel, make disciples, and care for people. That mission matters, but so does the way leadership handles moments like this one. Real restoration isn't just 3 months of paid leave and a statement read once from the pulpit. It's transparency, real accountability, and protecting the flock from having to learn the truth the hard way, twice. We'll keep tracking this story as more comes out of Covington and Mandeville. If Cultivation Church's elders release further updates on governance or leadership changes, we'll bring that to you the moment it's confirmed. Until then, stay discerning, stay prayerful, and stay tuned. This has been Anointed TV.